And addicted to carrots.
Wow.
He says, Mom, you're at services, you're doing something with Temple, where's my carrot? That's what he was asking.
How did you discover that?
Somebody said they were good for them, and when I had the 2 dogs, I would do that instead of, rawhide or bones, because I really don't trust those. And he just absolutely loves them.
Wow. Cool.
You peel them for her?
No,
They don't need it. They don't need them peeled.
he eats dirt outside. What am I going to peel a carrot for?
Some of the things. I used to visit Rebecca Kahn when she had Lila, and Lila got to know that I was bringing her something, but it'd be really funny because she would run up to me when I get in there, jump up on my purse, I would give her the thing, and then she would just disappear. It was like, well, I got what I want. Who cares about you at all? It's like, hey, wait a minute. I don't get a pet. I don't get a hot snuggle,
She actually got a piece of challah last night.
Yeah, so since we have another dog visiting us, one of my colleagues wrote a great piece. Do you remember Just So stories?
Yes.
So, how did the elephant get its trunk and that kind of thing. So my colleague, Zoe Klein-Miles, wrote this one in honor of Noah's Ark. And I sent it to a few of you earlier. So once in the ark, Noah discovered a hole and water was leaking into the ark. So Noah tried to plug the hole with sap and with hay, but it didn't work. Then he used bitumen and pitch, but that didn't work either. So just then one of the dogs rushed over and stuck its nose in the hole, saving the ark from sinking. And that is why to this day, dog noses are wet and cold, and dogs are considered humans' best friend.
Oh,
Cute.
So I reminded me of all those other stories. My kids don't remember just those stories, all these things. Why did this animal have this or this animal have that? And giving a background for it. So I had to just share that one with you in honor of our doggy visitor tonight. But the story I wanted to share with you, it's from Rabbi Mark Gelman, and he written another ones, but this is called The Bird Feather Rainbow. So again, with Noah, that from the beginning that God knew that people would try to act like they were better than their neighbors. But honestly, God never expected to have the same problem with the animals. So as soon as they were created, they all started to argue about who had the most beautiful hooves and hair and fur and scales and fangs or feathers. And the worst of the bunch were the birds. So when the time came for Noah to round up all the animals for the ark, he almost gave up on how to settle the birds in their nesting places. The best nesting spot, of course, was on the great wooden beam that ran across the ark. And the best place on the beam was right next to the window, the only window on the ark. And it was grabbed right away by the parrots, who would not allow, they would only allow the pink, bright pink flamingos next to them, who would only allow the canaries next to them, who would only allow the cardinals next to them, who would only allow the blue jays next to them, and so on down the beam. So at the farthest, darkest end of the beam, the bird beam, were the raven and the dove. Their feathers were just plain black and just plain white, so none of the other birds would have anything to do with them. So after 150 days and nights in the ark, everyone was going crazy, and suddenly there was a thud and a crunch, and the ark stopped rocking in the waves, and it came to rest, and with a loud growling and hissing and mooing and croaking and squawking and cawing, all the animals said, "Let us out of here." When Noah opened the window, though, a cold blast of wind howled in from the black sky, and all the animals turned to their neighbors and said, "You first." So Noah decided that a bird should go out and should explore. So he asked the parrot next to the window, but the parrot just ruffled her feathers and squawked, "Don't be ridiculous. My feathers are much too beautiful to be messed up in that awful wind." So he said, "Send the flamingo." And the flamingo just stood there and sneered and said, "It's much too cold out there for me. Send the canary." And so it went right down the beam, all the way down, all the birds chirping all the reasons why they could not fly outside the ark and until there was a caw and a whoosh, and the raven flew out the window into the cold, windy night. When the raven did not return for several days, Noah asked the birds if one of them would go out and try to find the raven. But all of the birds once again found reasons why they wouldn't go, all except the dove, that is, who whooshed out that window to try and find her friend the raven in the black and the dark, the windy sky. And after a very long flight, the dove found that raven perched in an olive tree on a tiny island in the great flood sea. And after munching on a few fresh olives, the dove said, "Let's go back and tell our friends, the birds, that there's land out here." And the raven laughed. "Our friends? Those birds don't care if we ever return. Why don't you just stay here with me, and no bird with colored feathers will ever make fun of us again." But the dove said, "I don't think that's fair for us to sit here munching olives while everyone else is cooped up in the ark." And so off she flew. And meanwhile, back at the ark, Noah stood at that little window staring out into the cold night for some sign of either the raven or the dove. And the bird kept pestering Noah, saying, "Close the window. They're lost. We're cold and you're crazy." But Noah continued to stand at that open window, looking and listening, freezing and sneezing. The dove was lost. Her white wings were dipping closer and closer to those churning black waves, and she felt she could not flap her tired wings hardly anymore. And then through the roaring window, the dove heard "achoo!" And following that sound, she came to Noah's outstretched hand, and he brought her into the warm ark. When the dove reported that there was land out there, none of the birds believed her. And the next morning when they woke up, the dove was gone, and her little nest at the end of the bird beam was soaked with tears. "I knew they wouldn't believe you," said the raven when she returned to the olive tree, which was now on the top of a hill on a large island in the great flood sea. "Stay with me and forget about them. Here, have an olive." "I don't want an olive, but I will take an olive leaf. This will show them that there really is land out here." "Won't you ever learn?" said the raven. "They're too scared to leave the ark." "And you, my friend, are too scared to leave this island and live with them," said the dove as she flew off, a white speck against a black sky. Soon the dove was lost at sea, and straining her ears to hear Noah's "achoo" or a flicker of life from the ark, but all the dove heard was wind and waves and wind and waves. And then suddenly, up ahead, the dove saw something very strange. Rising out of the sea was a rainbow, and flying closer, she saw that the rainbow was fluttering in the wind, and it was chirping. In fact, the beautiful rainbow was a tower of birds flapping their wings against the strong wind. The parrot was flying up and down the bird feather rainbow, squawking orders and saying, "Stay in line, you flamingos, watch out for the hummingbirds, you blue jays. Remember, our friend Noah is sick with a cold, and our friend the dove is lost at sea, just because we were too dumb to believe her. So budgie birds, flap those wings." When the two great doors of the ark swung open and all the animals were let out at last, they were greeted by a wondrous sight. A real rainbow in the shining sky. It was shining there, stretching from the ark at one end to an olive tree on top of a mountain at the other. And that night, before all the birds flew off to their new homes in the new world, they all nestled together in the olive tree. And in the very top branch were the raven and the dove. The dove fell asleep quickly, but the raven busied himself by passing out olives to all of his new friends with colored feathers. In the morning, the birds were gone, but the rainbow remained.
Very nice.
So I thought that was a pretty cool story. And one just to remember how we have to care for each other and make room for each other. I read a piece that somebody else wrote this Shabbat, comparing all of the animals and Noah and his family in the ark to all of us, being in this time of COVID and, you know, not knowing how long you'll be there and what will be next and feeling a little confined and all in that regard. So there's lots of different ways to look at this week's portion. We looked about 5 different ways this morning in Torah study, explored last night as well. So I thought this would be a good story for us before Havdalah.
It's a really nice story.
Okay, so I am going to momentarily share the Havdalah blessings and all in the margin. I never like to assume that people know it all and they don't have to have some reference point. So it's one of my convictions. Let's see, I don't see it there yet though. Okay.
Just 9 online. Maybe more.
Okay, so if you want to get your wine or juice and your candle and whatever you're using for spices. And again, the sweetest thing I have in my house at this point is the etrog. So there is one in the, I think I have it in the refrigerator at the temple. So if you want, I haven't smelled one yet this year and you want to, there is one there as well. So we will light our candles.
You didn't bring a piece of paper to drip on. Oh, right. I didn't drip on that.
Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei bisamim borei minei bisamim ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei ha'esh borei me'orei ha'esh. I'm holding something under it, so I'm not going to drip wax on my computer. So this flame can be closer to you. And I'm not sure why I have like 2 flames that are not quite joining together tonight, but one is definitely large and the other one is pretty good size there. So as we do our last blessing for Havdalah, for the separation of light and darkness, we can think of the raven and the dove. That first it was the darkness, the raven that goes out, and then it is the dove, the light that goes out. And they think of the 6 days of the week and the 7th day of the Sabbath and holiness and every day. So we sanctify Havdalah and we savor the sweetness a little bit longer. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, Ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamavdil ben kodesh lechol ben or lechoshen. Ben yom hashvi'i l'sheshet yemei hamaseh. Baruch atah Adonai Hamavdil ben kodesh lechol. We take a sip. We're ready to put the flame out in our wine or juice at the end of Shabbat. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hakiladi, Mimera v'yameinu, Yavo Eleinu, Imashiach ben David, Imashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hakiladi. And we conclude together with Shavua Tov, wishing one another a good week. So you can unmute as we sing Shavua Tov together. Shavua Tov, 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 a good week, a week of peace, may gladness reign and joy increase. A good week, a week of peace, may gladness reign and joy increase. Wish everyone a Shavua Tov. For those of you who have already voted, great. For those who have not, you have this week to vote early or November 3rd to vote on election day so that everybody can have their votes count. We move forward, and next week, same time, same place. It's October 31st. I don't ever remember falling back on October 31st and getting that extra hour of sleep on the 31st of October to the 1st. But it is the night that we fall back, and so we get that extra hour for November 1st. But it doesn't change our being here, same time, same place. And I will end our streaming and wish everyone Shavua Tov, and we'll be back next week.